Welcome to TGIF.
We have arrived. We have made it to the book of Esther. My best guess is a lot of them are probably familiar with the Esther story. Maybe not like the details within, but the overall Esther story, because it's a great book and a great story to read. And we have a plan to walk you through this book because we have...
Takes us to the word of the day, strategy.
We got a plan. We think we have a plan. We think we have strategy, but this is going to be a great multiple episodes in this book.
Yeah, there's so much to glean from this book alone, and that's why we're doing 6 episodes in this book, because there is so much to learn. And so if you are familiar with Esther, that's great. If you're not, do read along with us. And we are connecting today with Esther chapter 2, verse 15. Esther was the daughter of Abihail, who was Mordecai's uncle. Mordecai had adopted his younger cousin, Esther. When it was Esther's turn to go to the king, she accepted the advice of Hegai, the eunuch in charge of the harem. She asked for nothing except what he suggested, and she was admired by everyone who saw her. What a place to be, to be admired by everyone is one thing, right? Because we see people on Facebook trying to get the admiration of people. But she wasn't seeking into that. That's why I think it's so important for us to kind of hone in on Esther and to understand more deeply. Because we all can have strategies in life. You have a strategy, how to deal with me. We all have strategies, right? And it's when it comes to this life that we live, some work out, some do not. And what I have learned is that when it's God's strategy in your life, it's always pointing to what we are focusing on here is that we are designed for purpose. God's strategies will always point you to what your design is for His purpose in this life. And so if you're finding you're not hearing from God or understanding God, maybe it's because they're your strategies, and rather than allowing God to embrace you with the strategy. And I think one of those strategies that we see right here is to be humble. Esther is so humble, and she is kind. She doesn't ask for extra things. We don't know if other people were asking for things, the other virgins that were coming before the king, but she just asks whatever. She does what she's told. And that walking in that humble kindness really, to me, shows I've learned a lot in life that, that as we learn and grow, that it's important to be people who are humble and kind in places. And sometimes God just wants us to be quiet and just to go. So God's strategy for you is always there. It's hard to understand. And when we look at the start of Esther and the tragedy of this story, her parents are both dead. We look at the Midrash, tells us a little bit. The Midrash is a book that comes alongside and tells about the Jewish history. And so in that, it did say that the father, Esther's father, had died while his mother was pregnant. And then her mother died in pregnancy, in giving birth. And so what a tragic beginning to an orphan, basically. And how could there be something good that could come out of this? I mean, how can Esther become one of the most pivotal people in the Bible to save the nation of God? Why? God's strategy.
Absolutely. She did not have reason to be humble and kind. If you look at her story, a lot of people in these type of situations, there's this bitterness and there's this anger. But I think it was her humility. What makes her so unique is her humility. And it's humility that softens our heart to receive what God has for us. It's like humility drops barriers around our heart. I feel that. I think the word humble alone has this gentleness to it. And I think we've got to be open to that, to receive or hear what God's doing. And within our own strategic planning and all the order that we do things, we're so rigid and we're so busy, everybody's busy, that I wonder if part of not hearing from God is because we've allowed no room, no space, and just been present in a humble spirit. Okay, God, here I am. What is the next thing? Or God, here's what I want, what I'm working for, what I need. And then that humility to receive where he's directing you. Will it be the exact place you plan to get to? Not necessarily. I mean, at this point, did Esther, this point in the book, did she have any idea what was to come?
There's no way.
No. But we're going to hear how this thread of humility carries through the book, through hard, tough choices and decisions that she has to make. And she remained so willing to do what she was called to do.
And thank God there was a godly man that was there, Mordecai, that adopted her, and cared for her, and reminded her that she had value and she has worth, that just because this terrible tragedy happened, that God will use her in some way. And so I think that that's so important to have those kind of people in your life, because it's easy just to lose focus. And sometimes in the midst of life circumstances, crisis, there's this bigger strategy of God at work. And sometimes it takes you, like you said, to places you don't necessarily think you would be, or before a king. I mean, here we have this young woman that's going to go before a king, and how intimidating that must have been, and how it would be easy for her to think how unworthy she is. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity opens because of Queen Vashti and her position with the king. And so in that movement of God's strategy to make this space, you just got to start asking yourself, okay, God, what are you doing here? We're going to find out some of those things, but what are you doing here? And how can we learn from that there was a design for Esther? Long before Esther was born, there was a purpose and a design. And she is navigating that rough waters, but like you said, that humility is so key to it.
And God's got a perfect purpose for each of our lives. And maybe you can ask yourself before you venture on into the rest of the chapters, is what part of Esther's story do I resonate with in these first couple chapters, really hearing the start that she had in life, but still how humble she was. Maybe you have a story that you still kind of hold on to as bitterness, maybe something that happened in your childhood, or something that just wasn't really what you wanted for your life. But are you still allowing God to work even so? Because Esther got to the next place of where God would use her through the help of Mordecai, which was awesome. So that importance of walking on a journey with somebody is so important, I think, to our growth. But that whole idea of humility, gosh, that's tough.
When you look on the Facebook and everything that's out there, you see people, they're trying to get the admiration of people, get the following of people. I need 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers. And I'm nothing, right? I'm nothing, or I have no purpose unless I have 10,000 or 20,000 followers. And people are commenting on everything. And the reality is, no, you're so much more, because God designed you.
Yep, that gentle spirit within you, God will use it in mighty ways. So as you go about your week, ask yourself, how are your strategies working? Like your plans, are you where you wanted to be? And are you doing the things you want to do? Which there's planning is good.
I think it's good.
And we need to do that. But are you so focused on the retirement, the vacations, the trips, that is what takes most of your attention versus, okay, God, I'm blessed to be able to do the things that I'm able to do, but help me be humble into where you would have me go, or what you would have me do, and how you would use my resources to advance your kingdom. Because your story is important, and God uses all of us within the story, our story, because it is all part of his story. So to continue on, be ready for next week. You only have to read chapter 3. I mean, you can go through this book sitting down in one setting, But chapter 3 will get you ready for next week. So we'll see you next time on TGIF. Bye.
Bye.